Okay, so the cylinder is made up of two different parts. We have two end circles and the barrel in the middle. What shape does the barrel make if you unwrapped it? A rectangle. Okay, so we can draw that. Here we have the middle part. Two circles on the ends. Okay. And so the area of one circle is pi r squared. Pi r squared. And we have two of them. So we have two circles plus the middle rectangle. So you can see that I've written 2 pi r squared. There's two of them. So whatever pi r squared is, we multiply it by 2, and that's why the 2 ends up in front. For the rectangle, all rectangles are length times width. This one is the height. This distance here, what is that distance? Wraps around the edge of the circle. It's the circumference, which is 2 times pi times r. So the length is 2 times pi times r. The width is h. So when we multiply them together, we don't need the brackets, but we can just write 2 pi r h. Okay, it's important to know where the formulas are coming from. How did they make them? Any questions about the cylinders? How they come up with the formula, the different parts? Now you can see on the grade 10 formula sheet, and which is just the same as yours, they've got the two circles there, the top and the base, or top and the bottom. Those are the two circles. Then they have the rectangle, and you always start with the full formula, but they also have it broken down for you. Oops, going back to your notes. This way. Okay. Whenever we're solving cylinders, we start with SA equals. Write that down, please. Write down SA equals. Okay, I'm writing it down because that's the proper way to start any formula. Then you write down the rest. 2 times pi times r squared plus 2 times pi times r times h. Now in grade 8, you probably went to decimals. We're not going to. We're answering in terms of pi. So we substitute in 2 times pi, what's the radius? 5, so it's 5 squared, plus 2 times pi times 5 times 10. Okay. So surface area equals. Now looking at that formula, knowing bed mass, what part should we do first? Brackets, but there are none. I mean, those are multiplication brackets, not order brackets. Exponents. So this 5 squared must be taken care of. What's the last thing we're going to do? The addition and subtraction. So what we're going to do is go 2 times pi times 25 plus 2 times pi times 5 times 10. Now probably after the next question, you probably won't even do that because that's kind of a middle step. You'll just tell me how many pi's are at the front and how many pi's are at the back. So how many pi's are at the front? 2 times 25? 50. So there's a total of 50 pi's at the front. 2 times 5 times 10? 100. So then, all together, you have to add them up. Surface area equals how many pi's? Yeah, add them up, 150. So 150 pi, and that's going to be units meters squared. I always like to leave a little bit of space there to separate your units from your number. Okay. And that's your final answer, 150 pi. Done. Did you give me decimals? No. Okay. Unless I said round to the nearest hundredth, you would not give me decimals. On multiple choice, most likely that's the only answer you'll see. Okay. One thing to note, if I had 50 pi plus 100, that does not equal 150 pi. Okay, if there's no pi, you can't add it together. You'd have to go to your calculator and get a decimal and go 50 times pi plus 100. Okay, so make sure you're not doing that, and you're going to see that on shapes more tomorrow. You must have pi and pi to add pi. Only pi's make pi. Okay, that's pretty pieful. Next one. I want you to try this now. Start writing out the formula. SA equals. Probably going to have 4 lines of work. I want you to try it. Follow exactly what we did up above. Okay, all you're doing is changing numbers. So I want to make sure that you follow the example. In your head, you can go 8 times 8 is 64, times it by 2 is 128. Okay, so we have 128 pi plus, now instead of going 2 times 8, you can also go 8 times 4 times 2. Any order is fine, because then it's 32 times 2, which is easy to get, 64 pi. Okay, add them together. Let's see, 128 plus 64 equals 192 pi. Final answer. Yep, units would definitely be centimeters squared. And like I said, leave a bit of a space there to separate the two. Makes it easier to read. Any questions? Okay, now that's the final answer, but I just want to do a quick calculator check. Can you guys just use your calculators and tell me what 192 pi equals? Let's go to the nearest tenth. Okay, 192 times pi, it's a multiplication, 603.18, so you'd round it. Do you guys know what it's called when you just stop writing decimals and you're not rounding? It's called truncating. So this is the number with all the decimals, and I truncated at the 5. So I didn't write any more, I just stopped. So you're going to underline the tenth, look behind it. The 8 is bigger than 5, so round this up to a 2. Hands up if you got that. Okay. Do you need to write all this work down for your cylinders? Absolutely. Okay. Tomorrow we're going to do cylinder on a cylinder stacked up. So you need to make sure you're following along. Okay. Turn over, next page. Okay. So where should I start for this one? We have a cube now. What should I do? Yep, Gurmukh. You're on the right track. So what's that represent, though? A square. Yeah, that's right. So I have a square. Now if I drew the 2D net diagram, I'd have a square. Over here I'd have another square. And then I'd have another square. What would I draw at the top? What would I draw at the bottom? And I have to add one more. Let's say I add it here. What would I draw? Okay, so area of one square is s squared. So what would be the surface area of a cube then? 4. Did I draw 4? How many did I draw? 6. So just like a dice has 6 on there, a square has 6 sides because a square is a dice. Sorry, a cube is a dice. So they are identical. Okay? So you multiply it by 6. Then you could substitute in surface area equals 6 times 4 squared. Surface area equals, find your answer. (96 centimeters squared). Any questions? So what I did was I found the area of one square, and since there's 6 identical ones, I multiplied by 6. Easy peasy. Next shape. Here I have a composite cube, so they're touching. That means where they're touching, right here in the middle, that is not included. Okay, that is not included. So, what's the area of one square? Given that the dimensions is 5 centimeters. Yep. That's right. So s squared becomes 5 squared, even though it looks the same, they're not. And so we get 25 centimeters squared. Now, when you're doing these, it's helpful to think about what is touching and what is not touching. So, how many faces are exposed? This cube on the right, how many faces are touching? No. On the right cube, how many? 1. So it's only the one on the one cube touching here. That means how many are exposed? 5. What about the left? How many are touching?
1.
So how many are exposed?
5.
So altogether, how many are exposed? 10. Go cube by cube. Okay, cube by cube, figuring out how many are exposed. So what would then be the surface area of the whole shape? 10 faces times the area of 1 being 25 and there's the surface area of the composite. Okay. Good. So now I want you to try the next one. Find the surface area of 1, see how many are exposed, cube by cube, how many are exposed, cube by cube, and then the surface area of the whole object. Go. Let's get started. What is the area of one face? Area of one face is s squared. In this case, it's 6 squared equals 36 centimeters squared. So let's start here. We're looking at cube by cube. What is covered up and what is exposed? Looking at the yellow one. How many faces are covered? So how many are exposed? Looking at the red one. How many are covered? How many are exposed? Looking at the middle green one, how many are covered?
3.
So how many are exposed?
3.
And that's the tricky one. Okay? Here in the blue at the back, how many are covered?
1.
And how many are exposed?
5.
Okay. So all together, how many have you got?
18.
18 faces. All right? So the surface area would be 18 times 36. Figure out your total. 648 centimeters squared. Any questions? Okay, so we have 5 faces, 4 faces, 4 faces, 5 faces, total of 18 faces. To find the surface area, it'd be 18 times 26, because I did change it. I told you the area up above. So multiply those together. 18 times 26 equals 468 millimeters squared. And then going down below, if you then exploded this object so all the faces are exposed, you'd have 4 cubes times 6, giving you 24 exposed faces. Multiply that by 26, and that will give you the complete surface area. So when you explode an object and break it into a smaller size, you increase the surface area, and that's an important thing for biology and for chemical reactions to occur. So increase the surface area and break the shape into smaller pieces. Any questions?